Interesting facts about the list of countries with the most savings in Swiss banks and why. According to the data obtained, India is ranked 74th as a country whose citizens and companies from that country park their money in banks in Switzerland. India's position is down compared to a few years ago, which was in 73rd position. Quoted from ndtv.com, the data was obtained by the Swiss National Bank or SNB. India is still at a low level regarding the country's customers who deposit their money in banks in Switzerland. In 2017, India was recorded at 88, but in 2018 it jumped to 73rd. The citizens or companies that deposit the most money in Switzerland are the United Kingdom, followed by the United States, West Indies, France and Hong Kong. More than 26% of the total foreign funds parked in Switzerland as of the end of 2018 came from the UK. Other countries in the top 10 are the Bahamas, Germany, Luxembourg, Cayman Islands and Singapore. Among the BRICS countries, India ranks the most distended considering Russia is in 20th position, followed by China at 22, South Africa at 60 and Brazil at 65. The countries with the fewest citizens or companies keeping their money in banks in Switzerland and neighboring India are Nepal at 109th, Sri Lanka 14th, Myanmar at 187th and Bhutan at 193rd. The data presented by the SNB also shows that for the first time in 4 years, a Pakistani citizen or company has deposited their money in Switzerland. In total, the number of people or companies depositing their money in Swiss banks has decreased following global regulations against strict banking secrecy in Switzerland. The SNB describes the data they presented as not indicating the amount of illicit money held in Switzerland. So far, Switzerland is known as a haven for billionaires from several countries to save money. It is alleged that citizens or companies from various countries hid their illicit wealth abroad using multiple layers of jurisdiction, including tax-exempt countries, to transfer the money to Swiss banks. Until this video we made in November 2021, the information is only an estimate from the information that existed several years ago, and now in 2021, of course, the data has changed. Many billionaires hide money in Swiss banks. Maybe these are some of the reasons. Switzerland is known as the safest place to save the money of the world's billionaires. Not only the upper-class businessmen who save money in this European country. Criminals to banned organizations also do the same thing. Then why are Swiss banks a favorite location to hoard the wealth of billionaires? Quoted from the CQ page, Swiss banks have a reputation for maintaining the confidentiality of the owners of funds, anonymity. In addition, banking security in Switzerland is also very guaranteed. The secrecy and security of depositing funds in Switzerland continues to this day, even though the country's government has made several easing of secrecy in their financial rules. The reputation of Swiss banks in maintaining customer confidentiality is well known. So popular, many world leaders often accuse corrupt political opponents of hiding their illicit money in Switzerland. Why do criminals save money in Switzerland? Then is it illegal to keep illegal money like the proceeds of corruption and crime in Switzerland? The Swiss government often claims to impose financial regulations to limit the practice of illicit money laundering in banks in the country. But it is considered by many as mere rhetoric. This is because money laundering itself is almost difficult to detect. Because in practice, criminals and corruptors can save their money in Swiss banks through shell companies from other tax havens. So it is very difficult to detect whether the money deposited in Swiss banks is money from illegal or legal business. Swiss banks, due to the nature of their country's laws used to keep account holder details confidential, make them a great choice for hiding untold wealth. Switzerland was the first country to define a modern banking system. From account numbers, secret safes, and the latest technology of banking secrecy, many Swiss banks were first introduced, said Ashish Shankar, head of investment at Moschel Oswald, one of the companies that carried out the placement of funds. It's been hundreds of years. Banking in Switzerland has practiced this practice for centuries, hundreds of years longer than US banking. Switzerland since the Middle Ages has been a parking lot for European feudal lords. Switzerland is also known as an opportunist country. As long as it is economically profitable, running a money-keeping secrecy business is not a problem. This country has also positioned itself as a neutral country and far from conflict. Switzerland still reaps profits from the financial system it operates even when mainland Europe was torn apart by World War I and World War II. Dictators, emperors, prime ministers, military generals, businessmen from warring countries, both the Axis and the Allies, all deposited their money in Swiss banks. The leader of the German Nazi Party, Adolf Hitler, was one of them. He was known to hoard a lot of money in Swiss financial institutions. Switzerland's mountainous terrain also makes it easy for Switzerland to build super-sized secret vaults. They also implement a high-tech process that ensures the anonymity of their clients. The only people who will have access to the client's identity are the owner of the private banker and several other high-ranking managers, making the entire operation highly confidential, Shankar said. For centuries, Swiss laws have also been drafted in such a way that it is almost impossible to tell if someone has an account with a Swiss bank, let alone know the details, he added. The rules for security and customer confidentiality have not escaped the protests of many countries, but in fact this persists. Governments and officials in many countries are often frustrated when they find out that the funds of criminals from their country are kept in Switzerland. Is Switzerland still as strict as it used to be? The Swiss government itself began to relax the rules of security and customer confidentiality after the September 11th attacks, 9/11s. At that time, the United States pressured Switzerland to reveal accounts suspected of being linked to the terrorists. The era of secrecy and security in Switzerland also began to slowly loosen after in October 2018, the Swiss Federal Tax Administration, FTA, began to share information about people who have accounts in their banks with their respective countries. Arrangements involving FTAs automatically share information such as owner's name, address, country of residence, account balance and other details, allowing the respective countries' authorities to check whether their taxpayers have declared their foreign financial accounts. But still, the rules can be fooled. Some fund owners hire great lawyers and accountants to get around the latest Swiss government regulations. It is also important to know that not all wealth in Swiss banks comes from criminals. Big businessmen also tend to keep some of their wealth in Swiss banks to protect themselves from bad things. Bad things like lawsuits, high taxes, coups, or even something personal like a divorce settlement so that the property is not shared with the spouse. Due to the stable nature of the Swiss economy, money held in Swiss banks also tends to remain safe and immune from most global disasters and wars. Despite offering very low interest rates, nothing beats the guarantee of security and confidentiality of money deposited in Switzerland.